Okay, hello. I just want to let you know I'm obviously the videos are not coming on the day that they're supposed to, partially because of the whole uploading debacle and so on and so forth. So, despite when I'm actually recording them, I'm behind on when they get posted, and I'm trying to really work that out with the uploading process. I am going to try to make a few shorter videos. Sometimes I just can't help it. They're going to be long. It is what it is. I hope you guys understand and will stick with me through this learning process. I am going to post a few short ones back to back to back just so I can get caught up with the day that I'm supposed to be on. Because even if I'm recording them on that day, they're not getting uploaded and then it just throws everything off. Anyways, today is Wednesday, and so it's our physical path to peace. And somebody on my video for last Friday, the social path to peace, when I was talking about that really beautiful man I met in the library, some of your comments were hilarious, and I totally appreciate the humor breaks of some of your comments. Anyway, somebody asked, okay, I understand everything else, but why are you wearing flip-flops in winter? Now, if you guys remember 2 years ago, somebody gave me some shoes, right? I had these flip flops and I was walking around in these really thin flip flops. And I have thin ones because I can use them all week, including they're good enough to go to church. They're really not good enough actually to go to church, but they're passable. And I like flip flops. I don't like closed toed shoes. But I got into this park and my feet were just killing. And people were donating so much stuff to this park. So much was going in the garbage. So much was getting ruined by the weather. For a minimalist like me and for somebody who really values the worth of an item, it was very hard for me to watch. Anyways, I found a pair of shoes and they fit me. Great. Okay, so I had these new pair of shoes. They fit me. In one of the videos, I'm not sure if it was one that got deleted or it ended up getting posted, but in one of the videos, they turned on the sprinklers to just basically, I don't know, because you were allowed to stay in the park. So I don't know why they did that other than just to make your life miserable. They turned on the sprinklers on at least in this section of the park where, it was just getting everybody's stuff wet. And so I went to try to put a barrier so it wasn't hitting people's tents. It wasn't affecting me. I wasn't in that area of the park. But I went over there to do that, and I walked through this big puddle, that's now like becoming a lake almost, and it got my shoes wet. But not only did it get my shoes wet, water that comes out of sprinklers sometimes is not like your purified, nice water, and it smells. And when it mixed with those shoes, it really stunk. Luckily, I already had laundry that needed to be done, so I was just going to add these shoes to that load. I went to do my laundry the next day, put them in, washed them all up, got them out. They were wet, and just, I was in California. It's just humid and everything, so they're not drying. Like 24 hours, they're still not dry. 48 hours, they're still not completely dry. I know that that's just going to make the smell just stick in there. So I'm like, dang, I need to wash these again. And I need to put them in a dryer. So I'm cheap, right? So I don't always pay for a dryer. If I can possibly get away with letting things air dry, I will let things air dry. And at this time, I wasn't really wearing a sweatshirt. I was just wearing the t-shirts and things, so things could air dry, but these shoes were not air drying. So somebody who used to be homeless, who comes back to this park because they know a lot of people, so they come hang out on occasion. She's like, well, at the place that I have, there's a washer and dryer, and it's part of the apartment complex. I'll go ahead and wash these for you and then get the shoes back to you. So I went back to the thin flip-flops for about a week. I knew her through somebody else, so I'm like, have you seen so-and-so? And she doesn't come back for like 3 weeks, and she never washed the shoes. And I had put them in a grocery sack, tied it up, and I warned her. I'm like, you've got to do it right away because this smell is going to set in. So you definitely can't leave it in your vehicle with closed windows in this trash sack. It's gonna set in. Anyways, 3 weeks goes by. She comes back to the park, and those shoes stink to high heaven. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot." So there was no salvaging those shoes at that point. They were dry, but they just stunk. So if there was any sweating or anything at all, if they got even, they were just gonna stink. They were done for. So, anyways, I was talking to somebody about this. Somebody walks up behind me. It was a volunteer in the park. They walk up behind me. They hear the story, and he's like, "I've got some shoes for you." I'm like, "It's okay, it's okay." Well, next time he sees me, he comes with these beautiful new he comes with these beautiful, almost new Nike shoes. I mean, they're expensive. And I'm like, I can't accept that. These are expensive. I don't even they'll get ruined in this situation. He's like, "Look, they were my girlfriend's. She's worn them maybe twice. She's just not into them. They're just sitting in the closet, going to waste. It breaks my heart they're going to waste. You could use them. It would make me feel so good to be able to give these to you and, have them go to use." So, I'm having all this talk in my head and people who say, "Oh, you don't accept anything," and yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay, I'll accept these shoes. I've talked to this guy a few times too, so it didn't feel like a full on pity thing. Like we had a relationship. It felt like a friend giving me something. And I was so grateful. So I promised to him that I'll wear the shoes. And I'm very grateful, but it's so hard for me to wear something nice in that environment. It's like wearing you wouldn't wear your wedding gown every day, right? Like you don't wear like your best of clothes outside to work. And I'm in an environment where I get dirty, like things. I'm just not in a very nice environment, so I don't want to wear something really nice. These are nice shoes, but I promised him. So I started wearing the shoes. However, they fit just too perfectly. They were snug. They actually hurt a little bit. And when I tried them on in front of him, I said that to him. He's like, no, 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 they're fine, wear them. And I felt bad. I didn't want to press the subject. So I walk away and I put them on the next day and I'm like, these shoes are too tight. But I'm going to give you a little history of my feet. I grew up wearing a lot of hand-me-downs all of my life, secondhand stuff. That's what I feel comfortable in anyways. But the shoes that I'd often be given were a size or two sizes too big. So at this point, he gives me some shoes that are really snug, and I'm kind of thinking, maybe they're not snug. Maybe this is what stuff feels like when it actually fits, So, and I promised him I would wear them, and they have very thick soles, and so just walking around, and, my heels felt a lot better, but my toes were taking a bit of the brunt. But over time, that started to go away. However, I do have this history with my toes. If something hits my toes like too hard, like the end of a shoe, my toenail will go black. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's probably gonna turn my toenails black, and it didn't. It didn't. Over time, it didn't. But it did start to cause these little ridges in my toes. To add more to this history of my feet, which might sound like a really weird subject to be talking about, and it's like, oh my gosh, who cares? But your feet are so important to you, obviously in your own life, okay? But when you're living out here, when you're in a survival situation, you need to really take care of your feet. If something happens to your feet, you could get an infection, something really bad could happen, right? But my feet, all of my life, I've had really terrible circulation. All of my life. Now, because of that terrible circulation and because of my personality with a lack of style and a lack of knowledge of how to put clothing together and kind of a lack of care of wanting to do that so much, I do care, but not as much as other people around me. So there were times in my life I lived in the snow, and even going to church, I felt like my open-toed shoes looked better with the outfit than my church boots did. So I'd actually wear those open-toed shoes despite the fact that there was snow all over the place. Because my circulation was so bad, at some point I just couldn't feel my feet anyways, so it didn't really bother me. However, not feeling my feet when I'm ready to go to sleep, or having them frozen basically when I'm ready to go to sleep, I cannot sleep that way. I cannot sleep that way. So, over the last few weeks and every winter, when my feet, and I timed it one time, I was like, I'm going to time this. I put 2 pairs of wool socks on, and I had all these blankets and everything. And it wasn't even like super, super cold outside. It was like maybe 50 degrees, 40 degrees, but my feet were frozen. And I'm like, I'm going to time it. So I got under the covers and everything, 9 o'clock. My feet did not warm up to room temperature until 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock or 2:30. It took 5 hours. 5 hours. And I cannot sleep until that time. I timed it because I could not go to sleep. My feet were just frozen. People say, oh, put these wool socks on, da 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 da. Does not work. So I've had the freezing problem with my feet, which affects my sleep. I traveled around the world in flip-flops, and those flip-flops came from the dollar store. Sometimes they were just like the most cheapest thing that you could get at Walmart, but under $5. I traveled around the world in those kind of flip-flops, and I would wear them until like the soles had a hole in them and I could actually feel the ground. I never had a problem. I literally traveled around the world in those flip-flops. And when I say traveled, I walked a lot of places because I was too cheap to take transportation. So I feel like I walked around the world in flip-flops. I never had problems with my feet. Fast forward a few years, I am in California that summer. I'm walking around in those really thin flip-flops. My feet were aching so much. Not only that, but my heels, I don't know what was going on with my feet. This happened that summer, and it happened this summer. My ankles, you could not even see my ankle bone. My feet, like where my calves were, all the way down to my foot, I want to say was the same width. Like you couldn't even see my ankle. My feet swelled so bad. I'll show you some pictures if I can find them. And I really don't know what swelled my feet at that time. The first swelling, the one that I experienced 2 years ago, versus the one just this last summer. The first swelling, they swelled the same size, but this last one, I actually couldn't even feel my left foot. It was numb from almost the calf down. Even now, I can't feel the top of my foot, and I don't know if it's just neuropathy or I don't know, because I am having some health problems, so I don't know what it is, but and I can't feel it in the sense that, not in the same sense that when it gets really cold. That's a very different thing, and I've had that all my life, but can't feel it in the sense that, I mean, this was the middle of the summer and it was extremely hot outside. I do think that one of the reasons why my feet were swelling is I was just retaining water for whatever reason. But yeah, that numbness really bothered me and concerned me. So I bought these other kind of slippers from Walmart, right? And I was thinking, oh, they're probably not going to work. They're really cheap, but they worked. They took away the ache in my feet. I felt a little bit of it, but not nearly as much. And my feet were swollen. I could not wear those tennis shoes. So I start wearing the slippers. And yes, winter came. But when I went back to the tennis shoes, because winter's here, so I wanted to have some warm feet. And I thought, maybe if my feet are warm enough from the tennis shoes, maybe that will cut down the time that it takes me to warm them up in order to go to sleep. And I couldn't find them when I went back to look for them. So I was stuck with these like slipper shoes, which don't look nice enough for church. So I still have to have an extra pair of church shoes, which means I'm carrying more stuff, which I don't like. But I have these slipper shoes, but your feet do get dirty. So all of that to say, that beautiful guy in the library looked down at my feet, and I'll show you a picture of what my feet look like right now with these I don't know if you call them slippers, Anyways, he looked down at my feet, saw that they were dirty. That's just the reality. At that time, I wasn't wearing socks because my feet were dirty, so I was waiting to find a place where I could shower. That never happened, so finally I've just put socks on and used a little bit of wet wipes, but my feet still get dirty, and that's a little embarrassing, but it's just the reality. They're not as dirty as they otherwise could be or would be. So now I've gone back to find those tennis shoes and I've put them on, but I am realizing they really just are too small. They do hurt my toes, and I do think that they're the reason that my toenails are starting to ridge. So, and they're falling apart, so I don't know that I'm going to keep them very much longer. So, anyways, that's the story and history of my feet. Talk to you later.